upgraded. Now Tropical Storm Imelda hitting Galveston at this hour. The warning of life-threatening flooding. In the east, the hurricane off Bermuda now strengthening at this hour. The concern in the east. And now a third system headed toward the U.S. It is early. Ginger Z tracking all three. Also tonight, authorities say a disturbing high school shooting plot. A teenage girl accused of threatening to, quote, shoot 400 people for fun. What they say they found. The Major League All-Star pitcher under arrest tonight, accused of sexual assault. Authorities say the alleged victim was 13 when he met her. We have breaking news tonight in New York. The emergency ban on sales of flavored e-cigarettes, as we now learn of a seventh death linked to vaping. The massive oil attack, and U.S. investigators tonight on the ground in Saudi Arabia. Martha Raddatz standing by. The fireworks on the Hill tonight. President Trump's former campaign manager following instructions from the White House. The angry reaction. In New York City, officers attack the shootout when they try to answer a domestic call. We are one-on-one with Alex Trebek tonight. He reveals a new setback and what he says keeps him going. And we celebrate the remarkable life and career of our Cokie Roberts, the journalist, commentator, and historian. And tonight, the interview we found, Cokie in her own words, on how she would like to be remembered.
This is ABC World News Tonight with David Muir.
Good evening. It is great to have you with us here on a very busy Tuesday night. And we begin tonight with the tropical storm slamming Texas and the Gulf right now, and the hurricane strengthening off the East Coast. And now a third system we're watching at this hour. Look at the map tonight. Tropical storm Imelda just upgraded, slamming ashore in Galveston and elsewhere at this hour. And there's Hurricane Humberto gaining strength tonight as well, with concern over dangerous rip currents. And we're still in that time of the year. Look out there. Now a new tropical depression forming headed toward the U.S. This is early, but it could be a hurricane by Friday. Images coming in tonight. Strong winds coming ashore and battering Galveston and kicking up fierce waves in the Gulf. Flash flood watches tonight and for the next several days. And so we want to get right to Chief Meteorologist Ginger Z, who's been tracking this all afternoon. And Ginger, first off, this tropical storm.
Yes, Tropical Storm Imelda. It was named and made landfall within an hour this afternoon, David. And it's going to be aggressive that way in the way of rain. We knew it more than it was already reported in Galveston, just north of Galveston. So now we're going to be watching from Beaumont over into Louisiana, back to Bay City. Texas City could see up to a foot or more of rain in the next 36 hours. Let's move to the Atlantic now, because we've got Hurricane Humberto, a Cat 2 hurricane, should be a major hurricane by tomorrow. As it passes north of Bermuda, they are in hurricane warning. They shouldn't have direct impact, but huge surf, some major rains, and don't forget 6 to 11 foot waves here from North Carolina to Florida. And finally, that tropical depression, David, that you mentioned, it does look like the projection goes toward the United States. Most of the models turning it away, but it's far too early to let our guard down right now.
For sure, it is still September. All right, Ginger, thank you. We're going to turn next tonight to the teenage girl accused of a disturbing high school shooting plot, threatening to, quote, shoot 400 people for fun. Allegedly showing a coworker a video of herself shooting an AK-47. That coworker, alarmed by the video, then telling their boss. And when police visited the girl's home, they found an AK-47, a shotgun, and ammunition. Tonight, she's now under arrest. And here's ABC's Steve Osunsami.
Oklahoma authorities tonight say that this young woman, seen here in Jailhouse Orange, is accused of threatening to gun down students at her old high school in McAlester, Oklahoma. 18-year-old Alexis Wilson dropped out of the school when she was in the 9th grade, and investigators say she was planning to return and was, quote, going to shoot 400 people for fun.
I'm elated that right now that the threat has been eliminated.
When police searched her home, they found these: a newly purchased AK-47, 6 magazines to go with, and a 12-gauge shotgun. Her co-workers at this pizza place were the ones who called authorities. Police say she shared with another waitress pictures and videos of herself shooting with the assault rifle.
We do not want any of our schools getting shot up, as nobody does. And so we're going to do, everything that we can to prevent this.
She is pleading not guilty, and when she was arrested, police say she told them she really wasn't serious. But they also say she told them that she used to be suicidal and borderline homicidal to the people of McAlester High School because she was bullied.
And Steve Osunsami with us live tonight. And Steve, you're now learning tonight of yet another arrest of a high school student threatening to, quote, shoot up a school.
Yes, David, a 16-year-old from Fresno High School in California is under arrest tonight after a post he made to Instagram. Over the weekend, 3 other California teenagers were arrested for something similar. In each of these cases, people called in information to police because they were concerned. David?
Which they need to keep doing. All right, Steve, thank you. Tonight, a Major League All-Star pitcher is under arrest, accused of sexual assault with a minor. Authorities say she was just 13 when he met her. Police say the Pittsburgh Pirates' Felipe Vasquez first made contact with the girl 2 years ago. Their relationship, authorities say, in person and online. And ABC's Victor Oquendo on the charges tonight in Pennsylvania and Florida.
Tonight, two-time All-Star Pittsburgh Pirates pitcher Felipe Vasquez behind bars, accused of sexually assaulting a child. Police arresting the 28-year-old reliever this morning, charging him with several crimes, including solicitation of a child. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement began investigating allegations Vasquez had a sexual relationship with a 13-year-old girl who's now 15, after the child's mother said she found troubling text messages and let the ballplayer know her daughter was a minor. Authorities say Vasquez first met the alleged victim at a stadium in Pennsylvania, and the girl found him on social media, where police say it escalated from there, adding Vasquez tried to perform sex acts with her inside a car and texted the victim an explicit video. Officers were able to identify Vasquez by his tattoos.
These allegations are very, very serious. The term that was used earlier is heinous.
The league placed Vasquez on administrative leave. A judge denying him bail late today. More charges could be filed. David?
Victor Oquendo with us tonight. Victor, thank you. We are following a breaking headline involving vaping tonight. New York State just approving an emergency ban on sales of most flavored e-cigarettes. And it comes as we learn tonight of yet a 7th death now linked to vaping. Let's go right to ABC's Lindsay Davis with us here in New York. And we know this move in New York State comes after Michigan's governor did something very similar. But this ban in New York State will actually take effect first.
And that's right, David. New York now becomes the first state to ban the sale of flavored e-cigarettes. The emergency ban goes into effect immediately and would cover all flavored e-cigarettes and vaping products with the exception of menthol and tobacco flavors. The CDC is investigating a surge in lung illnesses linked to vaping. 7 deaths across 36 states and 380 cases of lung illness reported. Now, here in New York, stores will have 2 weeks to get those products off the shelves. Today, New York's governor said the state is not waiting for the federal government to act.
All right, we'll stay on this. Lindsay, thank you. Next tonight, the search for answers, that massive attack on oil facilities in Saudi Arabia. U.S. investigators are now on the ground there tonight, and what we're learning. Here's ABC's chief global affairs correspondent, Martha Raddatz now.
Tonight, a U.S. team on the ground in Saudi Arabia, gathering what a U.S. official calls compelling forensic evidence from the remnants of the some 20 drones and nearly a dozen cruise missiles. An official says they have recovered a nearly fully intact cruise missile, and they're closely examining this image from Saudi social media. It appears to be missile wreckage.
They'll take things like flight control services and match them to known Iranian pictures of the cruise missiles they build. They'll look at the circuit boards. Are they built in Iran? Do we know they're built in Iran?
A senior administration official tells ABC they believe the weapons were fired from Iran. President Trump, who days ago called the U.S. locked and loaded, says he's not looking for war.
They would like to make a deal. I know they'd like to make a deal, but at some point it will work out.
But Iran's supreme leader saying today there will be no negotiations at any level with the United States. Since President Trump pulled out of the Iran nuclear deal, there have been more attacks than ever and major ones, and Iran is now back on the path to increasing its nuclear capabilities. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo now headed to Saudi to coordinate any response to this latest attack. David?
Martha Raddatz following this again tonight. Martha, thank you. Next to the fireworks on Capitol Hill as the House Judiciary Committee probes possible obstruction of justice by the White House. Today, former Trump campaign manager Corey Lewandowski testifying in public, and Lewandowski following specific instructions from the White House, and it infuriated members of Congress. Here's ABC's Chief Justice correspondent Pierre Thomas tonight.
Before the cameras, President Trump's former campaign manager, Corey Lewandowski, clashing with House Democrats.
This is a House judiciary, not a House party.
You are here to participate in a continuing cover-up.
Flat out refusing to answer questions about his dealings with the president, referring to this letter from the White House, restricting the scope of his testimony, citing executive privilege.
How many times did he direct you to deliver a message to a member of his cabinet? The White House has directed not disclose or his advisors to protect executive branch confidentiality.
You're not going to stonewall me in my questioning.
But that did not stop House Judiciary Democrats from pressing to learn more about a key scene in the Mueller report regarding potential obstruction of justice. President Trump calling Lewandowski into the Oval Office and dictating a message for delivery to Jeff Sessions. The goal, to get the then Attorney General to limit the special counsel's investigation. Lewandowski confirming the president made that request.
Didn't you think it was a little strange that the president would sit down with you one-on-one and ask you to do something that you knew was against the law?
I didn't think the president asked me to do anything illegal.
David, during a break from the hearing, Lewandowski took time to promote a PAC, encouraging him to make a possible Senate run in New Hampshire. David?
Pierre Thomas with us live on the Hill tonight. Pierre, thank you. We're going to turn now to the sad news we first delivered earlier today here. Our longtime colleague and friend Cokie Roberts has passed away at the age of 75. Tonight she's being celebrated by presidents and first ladies, by so many of us in journalism. She was a pioneer. But we all know the role Cokie treasured most, the role of mother and grandmother. She had a brilliant mind matched only by her kindness, her grace, and of course, her wit. Born into a political family in Louisiana, her full name was Mary Martha Corinne Morrison Claiborne Boggs. But her brother could not pronounce her name. To him, she was Cokie. And that's who she was to the rest of us, too.
Oh, thank you for having me, and please call me Cokie.
Well, I will, but I'm from the South, too, so you know how that goes.
Cokie Roberts' father was longtime Congressman Hale Boggs, at one point the majority leader. He was killed in a plane crash, and his wife, Lindy Boggs, would win his seat. Together, Cokie's parents would represent the people of New Orleans in Congress for nearly 50 years. Cokie grew up in the South, but she was also a young witness to history at our nation's capital. It left an impression on her how much the women were really doing.
We watched them run the political conventions, their husbands' offices, their campaigns.
Cokie did consider politics as a young woman, but instead she decided to report on it, to witness it. A student at Wellesley, she met her future husband, Stephen Roberts, at a political meeting in 1962. He was studying at Harvard, a budding journalist himself. They would marry in 1966, and President Lyndon Johnson famously attended their wedding. Cokie's mother, Lindy, actually cooking food for the crowd of 1,500. Along the way, Cokie would remember that first job, anchoring a public affairs program in Washington. She was just 21. It was called Meeting of the Minds.
It was essentially reporting and then writing very brief little stories, and I loved it.
She would become a political commentator for NPR, and in 1988, she would join ABC News.
We're following two major stories tonight.
She would contribute to ABC's This Week, and then co-anchor the program with Sam Donaldson.
What is your definition of womanizing, Sam?
Most women know it when they see it, Senator.
And through the years, every big political night, Cokie was there too. Her interviews with presidents and first ladies. Cokie was an author and historian too, writing more than a half-dozen books, so often telling the untold contributions of women in America. And she wrote a book called We Are Our Mother's Daughters. And she said this not so long ago.
What has been the best piece of advice someone has given you regarding
Listen to your mother.
Well, that worked out well.
Cokie would win Emmys. She was named a living legend by the Library of Congress. She was cited one of the 50 greatest women in the history of broadcasting. But it was never the awards or the attention. It was family. Her 2 children, Rebecca and Lee, her 6 grandchildren, and her husband of more than 50 years, Stephen. Tonight, the family saying we will miss Cokie beyond measure, both for her contributions and for her love and kindness. Former President Obama and First Lady Michelle Obama calling Cokie a role model to young women at a time when the profession was still dominated by men, a constant over 40 years of a changing world. President George W. Bush and former First Lady Laura Bush writing, she covered us for decades as a talented, tough, and fair reporter. We respected her drive and appreciated her humor. She became a friend. And tonight, Speaker Nancy Pelosi calling her a trailblazer who forever transformed the role of women in the newsroom. And Save the Children tonight, remembering a tireless champion for children. But to all of us here at ABC News, she was Cokie. She made us all better. Her brilliant mind, her sharp wit, but above all,